Hello, word nerds, and welcome to the dictionary. My name is, of course, Spencer. You knew that already. I think you probably did because you are a regular listener. But I want new people. I want new people to come in and check out this show. This show where I read the dictionary. And we've got more geo words in this episode. We are still talking about the Earth. And the geo words are going to go into almost the end of the next episode. So don't you worry, you Earth lovers. People who love Earth, the planet that we live on. We got more words for you. All right, the first word in this episode is geomorphic. Geomorphic. It is an adjective from 1893, and the synonym is our next word, which is geomorphological. Geomorphological. My sound effect today shall be, I don't usually do this. We're just going to go, by George. Now we have geomorphological. It is also an adjective from 1896. Of or relating to the form or surface features of the Earth or another celestial body. So, obviously, we mostly are talking about Earth, but you could be talking about another celestial body as well, like maybe Uranus. What are the surface features of Uranus? What is the form of Uranus? And so the form, the surface features, what is going on top? Well, we might need a little bit more information, which takes us straight into our next word, by George. It is geomorphology. Geomorphology, noun from 1893. Number 1, a science that deals with the relief features of the Earth or of another celestial body, an example would be the moon, and seeks a genetic interpretation of them. Interpretation of them. Yes, that is that word. So a genetic interpretation of the relief features of the Earth. I think we're using the word relief here as in like mountains are coming out of the surface, canyons are going into the surface. You know, there's sculptures in relief, like a frieze on top of a thing. I think that's kind of what we mean, like things that are going out or in, but that's all still kind of surfacey. Let's put a link in the show notes for geomorphology. So it's, I mean, is it safe to say that it's really just the study of the surface of the Earth or something else? Let's look up geomorphology. Here we go. What does the internet have to tell us? The origin, evolution, and distribution of Earth's landforms and topographic features. So yeah, it's like what is going on the surface of the Earth. Focuses on processes like weathering, erosion, deposition, which is driven by water, wind, ice, or tectonics, and it is to understand why landscapes look the way they do and how they change over time. And this is very fascinating because it is constantly changing. The surface is constantly changing. It's very slow, but it's constantly changing. I think geomorphologists, we haven't even finished with our other definition. Geomorphologist is a noun. They are very interested probably in Iceland specifically because Iceland is on the border of two sections, two tectonic plates that are separating. And so I think Iceland is technically growing a little bit. And then, of course, there's like underwater volcanoes that are creating land masses like Hawaii. And there's all crazy stuff happening. Let's talk about number 2 for geomorphology. It is the features dealt with in geomorphology. So, look at those tectonic plates and those mountains and those canyons and those other things. That is also geomorphology. So I thought that we would have some etymology, but I'm not seeing It says ISV, which I think is just a scientific thing. So geo, earth, morph something. It's about the changing stuff, I guess. Sure. By George. Now we have geophagy. 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 Geophagy, noun from 1850. It is the practice of eating earthy substances, example would be clay, that in humans is performed especially to augment a scanty or mineral deficient diet or as part of a cultural tradition. And it says compare to the first form of the word pica, Pica, which I believe is a little bit more of a medical, what would be the right word here? I don't want to say a disease exactly, but something has gone maybe a little awry in your brain wiring, and pica is where you just want to eat lots of stuff that is not normally food. So geophagy is a version of that you're like, oh, I want to eat things that are not food. It's clay. I want to eat clay or something that's from the earth specifically, because it's got the geo prefix. But also, culturally, certain cultures might do this either as a tradition. I don't know what sort of example that would be because I have not heard of that. But, if it's a traditional thing to eat some dirt or clay or something, then that's their thing. That you got to respect that. But also, if your diet, if what you have around you, the food that's available to you is deficient in certain minerals, then you're like, well, there's clay. I mean, clay has got some stuff. Maybe I could eat a little bit of that. Might not taste great, but if it has the minerals that I need, then maybe I should scoop up a little bit of that clay. Maybe I could put some salt on it. Salt that clay. Okay, so that's that. I think the phagy, Phagy suffix has something to do with about eating, I guess. So hold on to your phones for that one. We'll get there eventually. By George. Now we have geophone. No, you'd probably just say geophone, not geophone. What would the geophone be before we are reading the definition? It's the phone that's part of the earth. You pick up the phone and call Earth. The phone made out of dirt and earth. A phone that looks like the earth. That would be. Ooh, I wonder if somebody's made a No. Let's look up a phone that looks like the earth. That would be a geophone for sure. No, I don't want the Samsung Blue Earth. I want a phone that literally looks like a globe. Like you got a globe, and then you pick up the top, and the phone part comes out of it. Like I'm talking about an old school landline kind of phone situation. Anyway, I'm sure it's probably been made. Okay, so what is a geophone for real? It is a noun from 1919. An instrument for detecting vibrations passing through the rocks, soil, or ice. Well, I just like to use my ear. I like to lay down on the ground and put my ear to the ground like Viggo Mortensen did in Lord of the Rings, and I'm sure other people did in many other movies and TV shows, and also real people in real life. To detect the vibrations. Maybe you can hear, maybe there's a herd of elephants 2.7 miles away. I can hear them. I can hear them walking around because they're so heavy that the vibrations carry through the rocks and maybe ice and the soil. Soil. I'm going to eat the soil. Yum, yum, yum. But this is a real instrument, a real thing. Let's look up a picture of that. Geophone. Yeah, sensor. I missed that. Okay, so this is a thing that it's got a very pointy part at the bottom, and so you stick that into the ground, whatever the substance is that you're working with, that you're standing on top of, and then it has like a big red thing on the top, and it looks like it's got some wires that come off of that, and they probably go into some other box or something, and then you're like, oh, look at there's vibrations. What's happening over there? I'm using my geophone. Hello. Goodbye. By George. Next is geophysics, or just geophysics. Noun from circa 1889. A branch of earth science dealing with the physical processes and phenomena occurring especially in the earth and its vicinity. What's in the vicinity of the earth? Branch of. So, what are the physical processes? Well, again, it could be similar to geomorphology, where you're studying maybe the weather and maybe the tectonic plates and just like how everything's moving and happening, shaking movers and shakers on the earth. The stuff, the physical processes, what's going on, and its vicinity. That's the part that's making me think a little bit. So it's the Earth, but also what's happening in the vicinity of Earth. Well, the moon is in the vicinity, so maybe it's studying how the Earth and the moon are connected. Woo woo! Because the moon is affecting the water, which is why we have the tides. And there's this gravitational connection, and there's a gravitational connection between us and the sun and maybe other planets. And so what's going on? And then, of course, there's satellites, like human-made satellites, but there's probably other things. There's definitely other things probably spiraling around us. It's all physical physics. Geophysical is an adjective. Geophysically is an adverb. And geophysicist is a noun. I mean, I guess, should we just put a link in the show notes for geophysics? Because we're also doing it for geomorphology. It's a big science topic. By George. Next is geophyte. Geophyte. Noun from circa 1900. It is a perennial plant that bears its, what is this word? Perinating. It went over to the next line, so I had to do some extra brain power. A perennial plant that bears its perinating buds below the surface of the soil. And I believe, and I should double check this, I believe that the perennial plant would be the one that comes back every year, lasting or existing for a long or apparently infinite time, enduring or continually recurring. So it said that it bears its perinating buds, and because perennial and perinating have the same start, I believe that those buds mean that they're either there all the time or they come back regularly, reoccurring. Buds below the surface of the soil. That is the important part here, because it's a geophyte. It's in the earth. Below the surface. What is the point of having the bud below the surface of the soil? Will it eventually pop up and come out and say hello to the world? I am the bud of a geophyte. I am here to experience all that the world has to offer. I was underneath the ground for a while, but now I have appeared. Okay, what does this say? Geophytes are perennial plants with specialized underground storage organs. Storgans. Bulbs, corms, tubers, rhizomes, or tuberous roots that store water and nutrients, allowing them to survive dormant periods of cold, heat, or drought. Often called earth plants, they are vital for water-wise gardening due to their durability. So examples, based on that description, you have maybe be able to figure out what some of these might be. The flower versions, I was not aware of these: daffodils, tulips, hyacinths, crocus, trout lily, jack in the pulpit, amaryllis, carinum lilies. So those are some flowers that are examples of these geophytes because they have an important part. Their storgans are underneath the ground. But you might also be thinking of, oh, well, maybe there are some vegetables or some herbs that are like this, and you would be right, because potatoes, I think that's the first one that most of us think of, garlic, carrots, ginger, yams, and so these these things grow underground because they like it. They prefer to be under there because they got the water and the nutrients, and then they can survive these more dormant periods. Types of underground structures. There's bulbs, like for the onion or the tulip. There's corms, which are the solid, swollen underground stems. An example would be the crocus. Tubers, that's the swollen, fleshy underground stem. An example would be the potato. Rhizomes, that is the horizontal underground stem. And that example would be ginger. They go out horizontally, I guess. Tuberous roots, that is the enlarged, fleshy root. And an example would be the dahlia. Okay, there's more information about how to care for geophytes and such, but we don't have time for that. I'm glad that I dug deeper into that. Ho, funny pun. Totally not a pun, but meant for that to happen. Yes, I did. By George. Next is geopolitician, noun from 1941. It is a specialist in geopolitics, which is by George, our next word. Geopolitics, noun from 1904. Number 1, a study of the influence of such factors as geography, economics, and demography, like the demographics, on the politics and especially the foreign policy of a state. So how does the geography affect the politics of an area and how they deal with other areas maybe that are nearby? The economics of these different countries, maybe, how do they deal with each other? The demography, the demographics of who are the people in your neighborhood, and how does that affect the politics amongst these regions, these areas? Number 2, a governmental policy guided by geopolitics. 3, a combination of political and geographic factors relating to something, and examples of that something would be a state or particular resources. So just to put that all together, a combination of political and geographic factors relating to a state or particular resources. Resources, those could be, water. That's a resource. Oil, ooh, that's a big geopolitical resource. Geopolitical, that is an adjective, and geopolitically is an adverb. There are people whose jobs are just dealing, they're living their lives geopolitically because that's all they think about and talk about. How does the area and what's going on in the area affect the politics? Would they be called a geopolitician, which is the word that we had before? Yes, they would. Okay. By George, she's got it. Next is geopressured. Geopressured. It is an adjective from 1968. Subjected to great pressure from geologic forces. The example is geopressured methane or methane. And so this methane or methane is under a whole lot of pressure from society and their parents and their peers and their teachers, but also the earth. All of that dirt and dust and rock and everything pressing down on it. It's like, oh, there's so much pressure for me to do these things. I'm geopressured. I'm pressured by the earth. By George. Next, we have Geordie with a capital G, Geordie, noun from 1866. Of course, the first Geordie I can think of is Geordie LaForge from Star Trek The Next Generation, played by the person that I cannot think of the name of because my brain always blanks when I'm trying to think of the names of people in general. Reading Rainbow guy, LeVar Burton. I found it. Yay. Okay, Geordie. This is chiefly British, and it is an inhabitant of Newcastle upon Tyne or its environs. Also, the dialect of English spoken by Geordies. This word, it's diminutive of the name George, and we're going to talk about George, which you probably could have figured out based on various things. So let's look up, I don't want to look up Geordie, specific Geordie people. I want to look up just in general Geordie. Yeah, Geordie people UK. That's great. Let's see. The people from the Tyneside area of northeast England, specifically Newcastle upon Tyne, which I guess is the name of that area, and also surrounding areas like Gateshead, North Tyneside, and South Tyneside, known for a distinct, often hard to understand dialect and friendly, football-loving culture. And the term stems from the region's industrial coal mining history. Ooh, now we're getting into where this came from. The name likely stems from the 18th and 19th century coal mines in the area, where many workers were named George, or from the use of the Geordie lamp invented by George Stephenson. So there's multiple ways, multiple reasons why they just became the Geordie people. Whoa, fascinating. Oh, let's talk about the accent and the dialect. It is considered one of the most distinctive in the UK. The Geordie accent often replaces the standard's A sound with a U sound. Common terms include canny, no, would they say cunny, which means nice or good, and howe, which means come on. And I don't know how to pronounce those. Ooh, man, fascinating. Maybe I should put a link to a video of how the Geordie people talk. What does their accent and dialect sound like? Of course, all of you British people are like, oh yeah, I can tell where people are from in any part of my country, in any part of my region, my geopolitical, geomorphological region. And so I know I can spot a Geordie accent from a mile away when I hear them. Okay, so that was Geordie. And now we go on to by George. It's the word George. With a capital G, noun from 1506. Number 1, either or either of two of the insignia of the British Order of the Garter. Oh, I remember learning about them when we talked about the word garter. And I think it was just like a band around the shoulder or something like that. That's what they have. Of course, I think that the people who are part of the British Order of the Garter should be wearing garter belts of different kinds down there in their nether regions. But so either of the two of the insignia. So what is the George insignia? That's what I want to know. Let's see. George insignia? What? Why? Here we go. What is the George insignia? George insignia typically refers to military or knightly awards featuring Saint George, often depicted slaying a dragon. Let's look up some images of this. Well, a lot of these have like a cross on them. Is this Saint George? Oh, here we go. Here's Saint George. He is, well, now this is very interesting. I mean, I guess you could call it a dragon. In all these examples, he is standing on the quote-unquote slain dragon, defeated dragon. So he has wings because he's a saint, I guess, and all saints have wings. Not all saints, not my saints. I don't know. His wings in this one have some red and blue. That is, I think, a unique feature for wings. He has a sword, a short sword in his hand, and he is standing on this dragon. But here's the thing about the dragon. The dragon is in human form and has green wings. Most dragons I'm aware of, the dragons that I know in my life, my dragon friends, aren't typically in human form. So maybe it's a demon, maybe it's a different definition of a dragon. They thought of dragons differently back then. But yeah, there's a few images that are just very similar. He's just standing on his back. Ooh, maybe he's giving him a massage. Maybe he's giving him a standing foot massage. He's like, oh yeah, thank you. Can you, that part right in my shoulder? Oh, thanks. Oh, where the wing meets. Yeah, just right there. Oh, that's good. Thanks, George. Okay, so that's the George insignia. Then number 2 is a British coin bearing the image of Saint George. So now I'm going to look up George coin, not Kapam. I lost the letters. So these, when you look up George coin, they did. I don't see the Saint George. I guess I have to look up the Saint George coin because these have like George Washington and other Georges. I want to see now. Oh yes, here we go. These have looks like Saint George. Now these ones, he's riding a horse. He's not standing on the dragon. He's riding a horse, and he's got a big ol' spear. And he's naked if you're curious about that. Of course, you know, when you're saints, you're naked riding horses. And he doesn't have wings in this one, so it's a different version, I guess. And he's got this big old spear, and he's getting ready to stab the dragon in the face. And this dragon looks like your typical dragon, what most people probably think of. And this one I'm looking at looks like a pretty new coin, but I think that there's some old ones here. This one is very old. Similar image. Yeah, he's on a horse, and so that's Saint George. That's what he's known for. So the George is the insignia or the coin showing Saint George. I will say, I don't know, for some reason, when I was a child, I just really liked the name George, and it probably came from It's a Wonderful Life, because that was, a yearly watch, one of my dad's favorite movies. I mean, it is objectively just one of the best movies. And so he was named George Bailey, and I don't know, for some reason it just struck me. I really liked that name. And so personally, I have no connection to it as an adult, but I still have that sort of nostalgic feeling of I just liked the name George when I was a child for some reason. I think we should start asking children, what's your favorite name? Of a human name, what's your favorite name? And I think you might get some very interesting answers. Okay, moving on to By George. We have Georgette. Now, this is interesting. You would think that it would have a capital G, but it does not. It is not the quote-unquote female version of the name George, even though that is also what it is. But I guess they didn't, because they don't put names here. They only put names if it's like a god or a goddess, or in this case, a coin or an insignia. So Georgette is a noun from 1915. It is a sheer crepe woven, a sheer crepe. I think of pancakes, but that's not what this is. A sheer crepe woven from hard, twisted yarns to produce a dull, pebbly surface. So, of course, I need to look up a Georgette. Let's see, a Georgette crepe. What is a crepe in terms of fabric? I mean, it's a lightweight sheer fabric with a signature dull finish, crinkled texture created by highly twisted S and Z twist yarns in both warp and weft. It just looks like a very kind of soft fabric called a Georgette. Anything else? It's from Georgette, which is a trademark. So there was a company who was like, this is our yarn, and we trademarked it, and you can't make it unless you pay us a lot of money. And it's dull. By George! Next is Georgian, the first form of Georgian. We've got all forms in this episode, so it is technically our last word. Capital Georgian. These are way at the bottom of the page, so I got to move this up. Georgian. It is a noun from the 15th century. Just looking ahead, do any of them have different pronunciations? No. So number 1, for the first form of Georgian, is a native or inhabitant of Georgia in the Caucasus. And I think that would be, is it like sort of the Middle East, Europe kind of area, kind of over there, I believe. So they are Georgians. The people who live over there in Georgia are the Georgians. But also in America, we have the state Georgia. So I guess you could call them Georgians as well. Or do you call them George? I don't know. Number 2. the language of the Georgian people. That's Georgian first form, and now we go by Georgian. The second form of Georgian is an adjective from 1607 of relating to or constituting Georgia in the Caucasus, the Georgians or Georgian. So if it's about the people over there, it's Georgian. They're the people, their country, maybe their geopolitics, maybe their geomorphology, all of those sorts of things. You describe them as Georgian. By Georgian? The third form of Georgian is a noun from 1741, a native or resident of the state of Georgia. First, we had to get the country out of the way, and now we have moved on to the state of Georgia in the America. By Georgian. By Georgian. The fourth form of Georgian is an adjective from 1762 of relating to or characteristic of the state of Georgia or its people. Honestly, I think they probably could have combined these. First form and third form, you could have combined. You could have just made a third definition that was like the people of the state of Georgia. And then same with 2 and 4. Just the people of the country and also the people of the state. Relating to that, it's fine. By George, the fifth form of Georgian is an adjective from circa 1855. I think these years, each one, the years get later and later. So, number 1 is of relating to or characteristic of the reigns of the first 4 Georges of Great Britain. So, in Great Britain, clearly, they love the name George there as well. And the first 4 Georges who were kings, that they're just relating to their monarchical reign, that was all called the Georgian times. That was all Georgian because it was by Georges. Number 2, of relating to or characteristic of the reign of George V in Great Britain. Now, why are you dividing the first 4 and the 5th Georges? Okay, so let's look up all the King Georges, because I'm wondering, maybe the first 4 Georges were back to back, and then the 5th George came later. What does this say? There have been 6 British monarchs named King George, all from the House of Hanover, which is later called Windsor, spanning from 1714 to 1952. They are King George the First, the Second, the Third, the Fourth, the Fifth, and the Sixth. Clever names. They collectively governed through the Industrial Revolution, the expansion of the British Empire, and both world wars. There is a video about them. Okay, so I'm looking at the years for each of them, and I'm comparing. Okay, here we go. Yes. So King George the First started in 1714, and King George the Fourth one, ended in 1830, and all 4 of them were back to back. Okay, so then there is a 80-year difference between George the Fourth and George the Fifth. So there was at least 1, maybe 2 more kings in between that time. And of course, I don't think. Well, actually, could have been a queen. Who I should look that up. Who reigned between George the Fourth and George the Fifth? Let's see. Here we go. We got William the Fourth, and then we have Victoria, and then we have Edward. So then, after Edward the Seventh, then we get into George the Fifth. So the first 4 Georges, their time period was called Georgian, and then George the Fifth, who was from 1910 to 1936, their time was also called Georgian. And I don't know why we're not including the 6th one, who was immediately after George V, who was 1936 to 1952, and I believe then his daughter was Queen Elizabeth. Yeah. So, it's very complicated, and I have feelings about monarchies in general. But all of that is George's. I'm so proud of us that we learned all about, we'll learn more about all that stuff. And then, yes, looks like a silly video about the Georges. And now we go into our very last word. By George! The sixth form of Georgian is a noun from 1901. Number one belonging to either or either of the Georgian periods, especially a poet of the second decade of the 20th century. So I guess that would be relating to the times that the Georges were reigning? Number two, Georgian taste or style, especially in architecture. Architecture? And so again, that could have been related to the times when the Georges were reigning over there in England and just colonial other areas. I kind of wish that the definitions were just a tiny bit more specific. Like, I assume when it says Georgian periods, that it's talking about the times that the Georges were reigning, because there weren't other definitions about a time period, so that would make sense, but could have been just a little bit more specific, I guess. And that's it. I don't have anything else to say about those, other than I must now pick a word of the episode. Today we had geomorphic, geomorphological, geomorphology, geophagy, that's what it is, geophone, geophysics, geophyte, geopolitician, geopolitics, geopressured, Geordie, George, Georgette, Georgian. That reminds me of that. Marsha. Georgian. All right, what am I going to pick? I believe that I shall pick geophyte, Geophyte, as the word of the episode. Geophytes give you food sometimes. Geophytes are sometimes tubers. I should say tubers are always geophytes. But there's other kind of geophytes. I don't know what's happening here. Geophytes store stuff underground. You know what? We're going to stop that song right now. It was just fantastic. So. It's movie time. This next movie that I watched was the third Avatar movie. I had to go see it. I had to watch it. Of course, I have mixed feelings, but it is what it is. Now, I thought that I wrote some notes during the movie, but maybe I didn't. I thought maybe I did. They're a spectacle, right? There's very few human characters. I'm very fascinated by just how they were made. We obviously have some very similar themes and some very similar plot points, types of scenes that happen in the first two movies. We are getting into these other worlds. We're seeing these other worlds that have been made up by Jimmy Cameron. And we really got into seeing these other types of groups, which is fascinating. I'm glad that he is being able to create these huge movies that have been a vision of his for so many years, and so they're fun and they're entertaining, and I of course appreciate that they are dealing with nature versus capitalism essentially, and really trying to get back to nature and pushing that as much as possible. So I really love that and appreciate that, and they're just big spectacle fun movies as well. So whatever, I'm not gonna be a hater on those. I know some people are, but whatever, I enjoy watching them, and that's what sometimes movies need to be. Okay, that's it for this episode, this very Georgie episode. Georgie Porgy stuck his thumb in a plum. I don't remember how that one went. I gotta say, this has been Spencer dispensing information. Thank you. Goodbye.